Today is March the 1st, and if you've been following AGNC for a long time like I have, I've been holding AGNC since 2009 and have enjoyed some substantial 15 and as much as 20% dividends at times. You're quite aware that they offer secondary stock options, and they do that for a number of reasons. Remember, as a REIT, they're required to pay out 95% of their profits back to the shareholders in terms of dividends. So there's several ways for them to make money, and one of them is to continue to issue shares and buy new mortgages. And that has been successful for them. The secondary offerings are pretty obvious when you look at volume in AGNC, and here we're looking at 5 years in a daily chart. These big spikes here are pretty much all secondary offerings. There are some exceptions. This flash crash for AGNC down here on a specific rumor produced significant volume, but it wasn't a secondary. So let's load in the drawings that are timelines showing you where the secondary offerings are. Oops, sorry about that. So here we see the lines that have been added in to show you when the secondary stock were offered. It would be nice if we could figure out approximately when another secondary was going to be put out there, so you could sell your stock the day before and then buy it back the next day. That would require insider knowledge, so you've got to look at some other ways to do it. And so I decided that I would do a time ratio Fibonacci and see if any of these events were Fibonacci related. But first I want to show you just the time difference between these. Now let's forget these two right here that happened very close to each other. Let's just concentrate from October 2009 till the most recent one of February 27th of this week. There was a 200-day period in here. And so I took this one and this one to be the 0 and 100% of my Fibonacci. I saw 137 days occurred until the next one, then 72, then 102, then 93, 126, 133, 132. You see how we're settling into a rhythm here of 126, 133, 132, and then there wasn't one for 225 days. But this was an exception because in October of 2012 they announced a share buyback. So they weren't going to issue shares while they were buying shares. So we missed a secondary offering that should have occurred in the latter part of 2012 and didn't. And now we have the most recent one, 225 days past the one last July. Let's take those Fibonacci's that focus on this as the starting point right here, October 2009, and the next one, May 2010, as our 100%, and let's see how the ratios fall out. So here's our 0 and here's our 100%. You can see the numbers right down here at the bottom. At 161.8%, we were 12 days away. We missed this secondary offering by 12 days. At 200%, we missed this one by 10 days. At 250%, we missed it by 10 days. 300%, 6 days. 361.89 days. 427%, 12 days. At the 500% time fib, we missed it by 3 days. And this one we missed by 19 days. So there's a couple of things we could do. We could try to redraw new time ratio Fibonacci's, and I haven't done that, but you can do it. Or we can say that this is pretty good. Let's take a look at where the next significant one would happen. Since we just finished 600%, I don't think we'll see one at 638.2. So I'd say the next one could be 661.8%. That's 105 days from now. If we take 132 days as sort of an average for the last 3, that would take us to January the 19th. If we take a 700% fib, that would take us to August 28th. So we've got 3 possible dates: June the 12th, July the 19th, and August the 21st. The next dividend is going to be announced in March. March 5th of 2012, I believe, they announced the first that quarter dividend. So let's say that it's March again. That means that the second quarter dividend will be announced in June. I have not shown you on this chart how closely some of these secondaries match with dividend news. It's like, on one hand, they give you $1.25 for a dividend, and then a couple of days later they announce a secondary which drops the price by $1, sometimes as much as $1.40 in the past. That would put Q2 dividend announcement right around June 12th, June 20th. So I would put a high probability of a secondary being offered here. The problem is, if you sell your stock, then you may not be there on the day before ex-dividend date. There's not much you can do in that case. You would have to hold. But I would be keeping an eye on June the 12th. If we don't get one right around the ex-dividend date, then I would be looking at July 19th. You should be free to sell your stock then, because you'll have passed the ex-dividend date and you'll simply be waiting for your dividend. And then the last one I would look at, and I would feel pretty good about seeing a secondary offering on August the 26th or thereabouts. If you have any questions, my handle on Twitter is Newsag, Newsagg, and you can send me a message there.